which is great. So now we're on to the community boards, which I always look forward to seeing. We'll hear from the com boards, who will be also speaking, if they want to, about their submissions on the Otatahi Christchurch Future Transport. First up is Marie and Helen. So if you could come up, please, that'd be great. This is Hornby Riccarton portal. Welcome.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for this opportunity to present the monthly report of the Waipuna Holswell Hornby Riccarton Community Board. Now, at the board's February meeting, we approved the change in classification of Chokebore Reserve in Riccarton from local purpose community to historic reserve. This will allow the building known as Chokebore Lodge to be occupied by a residential tenancy or other tenancy sympathetic to its heritage status. Its previous classification allowed the use of the building only for kindergarten, play center, plunket, or other similar purposes. Now, approvals were also made on the play space renewal plan of Moffat Reserve in Hornby, the no stopping and parking restrictions along the runway Wigram in front of the shops, and no stopping restrictions at the Linfield Avenue and Maydale Street intersection in Ilam near the university. The Hornby Community Patrol started as Community Watch Hornby on 18th of January 1995 and changed its name to Hornby Community Patrol Incorporated in 2006 when they became affiliated to the national body Community Patrols of New Zealand. We are all grateful and wish to extend our deepest gratitude to the Hornby Community Patrol as they celebrate 30 years operating as the eyes and ears of the police and the wider community, creating a safer community environment. The board contributed funds toward their celebration. Now, I won't go into the details of the Community Board Area Report, but to highlight some of the events that have occurred in the past month, I now pass you on to Helen.
Thank you. The Hornby Community Centre Health and Wellbeing Hub, our board is to support the transition of the Hornby Community Care Centre to full ownership. And the Hornby Community Care Centre have officially opened their Health and Wellbeing Hub with our blessing. The centre's been working hard over the summer break to complete the refurbishment to part of the old Hornby Library. So that's an extra care centre which we've got because we've got a pool, library and other facilities. So it's an extra for Hornby, which is good. Next one is House of Hoops, Hornby and Riccarton. The House of Hoops program has provided an exciting opportunity for rangatahi to engage in basketball, build confidence and form supportive social connections. Hornby House of Hoops and Riccarton House of Hoops have brought young players together to test their skills in a fun tournament setting, many experiencing competitive play for the first time. And if you want probably more on that, Tyler can probably talk about that, can you? Hopefully. The Better Off Matatiki Play Space project play sessions. We've got a lawn space through a series of pop-up play sessions, which was a great success. Probably I should have said the Matatiki lawn space has been very, very popular. It's run in partnership with libraries. These sessions feature story times, giant games and crafts, providing engaging activities for young tamariki and creating a vibrant, family-friendly space. And I think that's the end of me.
Right, now on to the Community Service and Youth Service Awards for 2025. Nominations are open from March 7th until the 6th of April of this year. Now, last year, the board presented awards to 16 well-deserving recipients at 12 community events. Now, the Local Response Fund. In 2020, the Waipuna Holswell Hornby Riccarton Community Board funded $1,000 to Barry Shah through the Canterbury Students Muslim Association towards the purchase of a camera for Bariz and his wife to undertake a project to empower 51 lives in Afghanistan in honor of the 51 lives that were lost in the March tragedy. They traveled to Afghanistan, Bariz's home country, and undertook establishing 51 micro-business projects, filming them. $20,000 was sought from local donors to enable the 51 projects. The funding was granted through the Local Response Fund, which was set up to support communities affected by the tragedy. The board funding the camera purchase meant that the donated $20,000 could go directly into the project costs instead of film production costs. The film, Project 51, is being released in cinemas on April 3rd, telling the story not only of some of the projects, but also their own story as Muslims living in Christchurch. Now I move on to the Aotearoa Transport Strategy. Now, item 10 of today's council meeting is on the draft Aotearoa Christchurch Future Transport Strategy. Our board made a submission supporting the draft strategy. We made a few minor comments in our submission, but the thing I would like to emphasize in our submission is the importance of recognizing the greater challenge with the growth of our neighboring districts. This is very important to us, considering that our board area is right at the boundary of Christchurch and Selwyn. So much growth is happening in our neighboring district right now, and our suburbs, particularly Holswell and Hornby, are feeling the pinch or the effects with commuters using our local roads to get to Christchurch. It is impacting on our current infrastructure, and so we strongly feel that there is a need for recognition that the future infrastructure demands will result in changes to transport patterns and demands. There needs to be an ability to act and adapt in a timely manner. In addition, the board considers that the strategy needs to be flexible enough to accommodate the introduction of mass rapid transport within a short to medium time frame. Thank you for giving us also this opportunity to be heard regarding our submission on the draft Aotearoa Christchurch Future Transport Strategy.
All good? Okay, any questions of anyone? No, that's good. Thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you.
Good to see you again.
Thank you.
Okay, so we've got Coastal Burwood Linwood with Paul and Jackie, please.
Right, ata Mārie e te kura mātua me ngā kaikonihira kia tauterangi mea Mārie kia koutou. So just some highlights from our board area. There was the 25th anniversary of Te Whāritaunga o ngā iwi katoa, the Linwood Resource Centre, and a morning tea celebration on the 19th of February. It was the 19th of February. Gee, it's gone fast. Staff, volunteers and participants from past and present attended to acknowledge the impact of the work the centre has had on the Linwood community since its establishment in October 1999. And I managed to pop in with my son, who in his classic autistic way did the full whirlwind tour and then decided that we need to leave immediately. And also, He Wakatapu had their whānau day on Saturday the 1st of March at their facility on Pages Road, and there were heaps and heaps of activities and entertainment for the whole whānau. The Linwood Resource Centre has a Pacifica Community Garden summer program that was held on the 15th, 22nd and 29th of January 2025, which is an opportunity provided for an intergenerational engagement between children aged 7 to 11 and older adults 60 plus from the Pacifica community. The program offered opportunities to share cultural knowledge, gardening skills and storytelling through podcasting. The program was well received with attendees expressing feelings of inclusion, cultural pride and a sense of belonging. And we're really lucky to have the Climate Action Campus in our community board area. They held a working bee on Saturday the 1st of February 2025 to clear another area of weeds and grass ready for planting, and staff from Aotearoa and volunteers spent the morning clearing away the large portion of garden, making way for some new vegetables to go in. And the Puhara Kikanui Trust, Styx River Trust, have installed new signage on the Styx River Esplanade Reserve from their field centre base at 69 Lower Styx Road. The signs provide information on the awa, its wildlife, vegetation and conservation work that the Trust have been doing. The track made by volunteers meanders all the way down to Janet Stewart Reserve. And now we're into our little advocacy portion. Portlink is still there, and it's still impacting residents every day. And can we all agree on something? That we define what a building is clearly in the district plan? On one hand, we have the developer of Portlink saying that effectively permanent stacks of containers are not buildings. And on the other, the same developer is saying that food trucks at the Arts Centre are buildings. The ambiguity needs removing from our district plan. Secondly, when ECAN eventually gets around to their regional policy statement, I would like the council to submit in favour of a proper buffer zone on the industrial residential interface. Our plan change can't fix Portlink, it can only fix things going into the future, but the regional policy statement can. Just want to make a couple of comments on why we need an LAP. Until a few years ago, there were 3 bottle stores within about a kilometre radius around Wainoni in the Linwood ward, all owned by the same company. And that company was found to have been exploiting their workers as well as selling alcohol inappropriately, and so they were stripped of their licences. They never would have been closed otherwise. The result of these 3 bottle stores being closed is that the level of alcohol-related harm in the area has reduced, most visibly in a decline in the level of rubbish, vandalism, and my work, which is in the area, no longer has drunk people coming to the door. But the community has had to fight a running battle with multiple applicants trying to reopen these stores. I think it's up to about 6 applicants now that have pulled out before a hearing, but not without considerable effort from the community. There is no way that either of these 2 remaining stores, because one of them is now at the petrol station, should have a bottle store due to the level of deprivation in the area. But the industry don't care. And this is why we need an LAP, and we need to have a cap on new bottle stores in deprived areas, just like Auckland has. And finally, just on the future transport strategy, our submission can be boiled down to this. Inequality is also a strategic challenge and should be referred to in this plan. There are people in some parts of our board area that have no easy access to car, bus, not even a major cycle route, which compounds social isolation and access to services. Our transport planning should have improving access for people who face barriers to effective, efficient and affordable transport at its heart. So happy to take any questions if you have any.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Kel?
Paul, just on public transport in the Aranui area, we have a couple of bus routes going on major roads, Wainoni Road and Pages Road. Have you heard much from the community about the lack of public transport in between those areas? I understand there's a petition circulating.
Both for Aranui, definitely, and also we used to have a regular bus service that went through Bromley, which was also cut. So yeah, Aranui and Bromley in particular need to have services that go through them because there's big wide areas that don't have any easy access, and as you're no doubt aware, those areas also have lower levels of car ownership and cycle ownership.
Thank you, Kel. Yeah.
Thank you for raising that point. Given that we've got a future of PT business case that makes reference to those sorts of issues particularly around public transport, do you think council needs to revisit that in light of the new government changes around funding and ECAN's route reviews and actually be more? Do you think council needs to be more directive in terms of that business case around where the investment will go, particularly into the poorer parts of the city or the lower socioeconomic areas?
Yeah, there's a lot in that question, Yanni. I think that council needs to be really clear around where the holes are for people who, like I've said, without access. And so, we have a very strong business case that has got support from right across the board, which I wouldn't want to undermine, but just to continue to articulate the need for access for people who live in places like Aranui and Bromley.
Right, okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you very much, gentlemen. Good to see you again. Okay, so now we have Banks Peninsula. We've got Lynn and Penelope, please.
Morena, good to see you again, as always. This month, our update includes a twilight twist, grim lavatories and hair-raising roads. At our meeting at the start of February, Vanessa Wienick, BP MP, gave us some background on what it might mean if Banks Peninsula were to seek dark sky reserve status. The area being discussed stretches from Kokorarata, Port Levy, across to Prices Valley, Katariti Spit, and all the way east over the peninsula, so it's quite a big area. Most of this area already meets the required standards for the dark sky reserve, including places like Birdlings Flat and Little River, so that's quite encouraging. The board was told about the potential positive impacts of this designation, including how it might improve mental health, biodiversity, insect populations, tourism, and even electricity cost savings. Community input will be key in working through this idea, and meetings will be held starting at the end of March in Birdlings Flat and Akaroa, where people will have a chance to hear more about it and have their say. Tourism infrastructure funding. As a board, we are always looking at new opportunities to make progress for our community. The board did some brainstorming considering the pressing need for improved tourism infrastructure across Banks Peninsula. The TIF fund through MBE is opening soon, but also important for you to note the following issues need addressing. Public toilet facilities in particular have been identified as a significant issue due to increasing visitor numbers and inadequate infrastructure. Many existing facilities are either outdated, lacking capacity, or entirely absent in high traffic areas, creating challenges for both residents and tourists alike, like running out of water to flush, people peeing in public, grim and unsanitary looking facilities, etc. Birdlings Flat is a prime example. It only has 2 toilets tucked behind the playground, running in an old septic tank system. They work, but they've got issues, like keeping the lake flies out, as you can see. And the beach is hugely popular for fishing, gemstone hunting, and just soaking up the views. But on a busy night, like the bottom there, when the aurora is forecast, the car park is overflowing and the 2 toilets aren't anywhere near enough. Devotionals has a similar problem. The boat ramp there is extremely popular, one of only 4 in Akaroa Harbour, and there isn't a permanent public toilet. There's a portaloo that's been put in there, thanks to Tairona and us. The Devotional Reserve Committee has flagged this as a priority in their annual plan wish list. Over in Akaroa, the recreation ground public toilet is pretty rough on the inside. Peeling paint, worn floors, and those old school pull chain flushes that leave some visitors bamboozled and unsure how to flush. These toilets are crucial for boaties, freedom campers, and event goers, and they often can't keep up with demand. Excuse me. Another area that needs attention is walking track safety. I think it's on the next one, back there. Oh, no. I will continue. Our tracks are a major drawcard, but some of them need work to make sure they're safe. Just last month, a hiker badly dislocated their ankle in a deep part of Stanley Park Reserve track in Akaroa. The ambulance crew had a tough time keeping their footing while carrying the patient out. The Stanley Park Reserve Committee is ready to make safety upgrades, but needs funding to get them across the line. Right, just to change gear slightly, we'll move into the Future Transport Strategy submission. The board supports the Future Transport Strategy, particularly in its efforts to build a resilient transport network and adapt to climate change. Banks Peninsula reflects many of the challenges outlined in the strategy, in particular, road safety. Many of our roads are often single-laned with steep drop-offs, as you can see here. especially tricky when large vehicles such as logging trucks and camper vans are using them. As traffic increases, more drivers unfamiliar with our windy roads are added to the mix at peak summer times. Would strategically placed temporary traffic lights alleviate this, or signage to inform drivers of the conditions? That could be an option as well. Resilience to extreme weather. Our roads are so vulnerable to extreme weather events, including flooding and slips, and even this small slip last year closed the road for hours. Making vital transport routes remain accessible during adverse conditions is essential for our remote communities. Future planning should consider options like well-maintained marine infrastructure to maintain boat access, and if appropriate, investigating extending ferry services. Growing demand. Banks Peninsula's population has seen significant growth with visitor numbers increasing in summer. Improved public transport links between Christchurch and major Banks Peninsula destinations would help meet demand. Low emission transport. The board supports increased access to EV charging stations, across Banks Peninsula, making it easier for residents and visitors with electric vehicles to explore the area sustainably. Walking and cycling infrastructure. Living in Banks Peninsula is all about enjoying the great outdoors, and walking and cycling are popular choices. The board supports safe walking and cycling infrastructure to provide real alternatives to fossil fuel transport. All of this is to say, thank you. Banks Peninsula is about its people, its natural beauty, and making sure that both locals and visitors can move around safely and sustainably. Whether it's improving roads, upgrading facilities, or making space for low emission transport, we need to be thinking ahead. And lastly, just to finish up my general update, is this picture of the new jetty in Akaroa. And a very handsome jetty it is, if you can call a jetty handsome. Drummond's Jetty was opened by our very own Tyrone Fields with a great turnout by locals and stakeholders, all keen to see what this new innovative pontoon at the very end was all about. It will be very well used while the main wharf is out of action during its much anticipated upgrade. Thank you for your time, and I welcome questions.
Okay, I just got one wee question. On that photo there, when the new wharf, you probably said this one, just checking, when the new wharf is completed, that the white bit on the end of there vanishes? Or does that stay there forever?
The pontoon?
Yeah.
It is designed to move around, yes.
Right.
But I'm sure there'll be lots of people wanting to keep it.
Okay, no, yeah.
It's designed for the new wharf.
Designed for the new wharf.
Roger,
Yes.
thank you. Yanni?
Yeah, thank you for your deputation, and thank you so much for raising the idea that we look to external funding to help some facilities. I've put some questions in of staff previously around, for example, Lottery has a heritage and environment fund as well. Are we able to get some advice back? I've also put forward, for example, Takapaniki to be funded through the visitor tourism levy as well. So are we how can we progress that? Is basically the question. Like, have you had advice back from staff, or do we need to pass a resolution
Yes,
today?
we've heard back from staff about that.
Yeah, so essentially staff asked the board for ideas for the tourism infrastructure fund, and so the board has been gathering their ideas which get fed into the unit.
Right. Is there a process for us as councillors to put ideas in, or to have a discussion about what we put forward?
We could follow up on that. We did transfer the information particularly to Banks Peninsula because they were the area that this was targeted at, but we can follow up with other councillors if they want to have some input as well.
Yeah, okay. I think that'd be useful. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Tyrone, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Actually, just in answer to your question, Phil, the contractor said that the end pontoon was built to last for 50 years plus, so, you know, be good to keep it around. But anyway, my question is, Lynn, thank you. So just wheel back to that picture, that gnarly picture of that logging truck that spilled over the edge of Kinloch Road there in Little River, if we can. Is that you backing up, Aaron, there? Is it? So we get quite a lot of logging truck damage on, it's fair to say. I mean, this is really, it's not a complicated question, Lynn. Like, what sort of damage do the logging trucks do to the roads in Banks Peninsula through private logging enterprise?
Excessive. I can report on that particularly because I've just had logging trips down my road, touring up the road. And they're usually very polite and great companies, but extra traffic, heavy traffic on those roads that are just, not made for it. And then some of these places are going to have logging for 5 years in a row. So you can imagine what that will do to the roads. Not to mention the odd incident like this when they're trying to pass another car and they have to pull over further to actually be able to pass safely, and then that means they go off the road. So it's a very tricky situation, and I just needed to raise it here, so we need to get our thinking caps on.
Good on you. Thank you very much. Good to see you.
Right.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Okie doke. Spraden Cashmere Heathcote, please. Yep, Kia and Callum. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you. All right. Going to go to katoa. Well, start off. I'll probably just breeze through. We've got in the report decisions made, but I won't sort of dwell on that for now. And start off with some light stuff. We had a great opening event at the Eddington Basketball Court, which was much anticipated by the community. Had the local, the captain of the Canterbury Rams come along and do a guest speech and had a fantastic competition afterwards as well. So super excited, and again, huge thanks to park staff for helping pull that off. Big news for us really is the South Library being closed, and that's the bad news, obviously. Well, in the short term, not having a large library like that. The good news, obviously, is that we'll be getting a brand new one before long, and the other good news is we've got a fantastic temporary location at the Colombo Mall. So if you haven't had a chance to go down, I know you went down there, Phil, as well as Mel, to have a look around the facilities there. It's a great temporary facility, and we're happy with the outcome there. And huge thanks to libraries for organising that. And then unmarked graves. Kia, did you want to talk to that one?
Yeah, so obviously this is an issue that has been first raised by my colleague Michelle Lomax in a previous term, so it's been going on for a wee while now. So it's been something that as a board we've really wanted to continue the work here. It has come through the Royal Commission of Inquiry into Abuse in State Care, which is the situation where we have these unmarked graves of people predominantly from Sunnyside, a range of cemeteries across Christchurch, but particularly at Sydenham. Last month, Erica Stanford, the minister leading the response, announced a $2 million survivor support and recognition fund, which is a non-contestable fund. So where councils or other relevant entities have a site like this, they can put in and get $50,000 to move the work forward that they're doing to memorialise and recognise that. So we think that's a really great step that the government's taken. Obviously, $50,000 when you think that there's perhaps 1,000 unmarked graves, we'll have to think really carefully about how that money is used and what the survivors and families think is the best use of that. And one thing we're really keen to do is work with members of the community who might be interested in getting involved on a pro bono or charitable basis as well, to see what they can do to be part of this project. So we're just, bringing this up as something that we're really keen to continue being involved in, and looking forward to seeing staff give us some information about the work they've done. I know that staff have worked really hard on aspects of this, and that's been a real passion project for some of them. So I'm sure they'll be pleased to see this as well.
Yeah, thanks, Kev. Yeah, just want to echo that kind of last point there. We have a huge trust for the staff that are doing this work, because they've demonstrated that they've got that passion and the connection to the survivors community as well. So we look forward to this process, those relationships continuing into this new chapter with the memorialisation. And finally, King Park. So we've had a lot of, complaints around behaviour at King Park. So this is essentially it's a small suburban park up at Mount Pleasant. unique, sort of unusual for a park like this. It has its own little car park. And there's just been lots and lots of complaints about antisocial behaviour, waste and untidy practices in general. Obviously, council's powers are limited in terms of enforcement and policing of antisocial behaviour. But we have asked staff, and the staff have gone away with some actions, including monitoring that car park potentially with a surveillance camera, subject to availability, some nightly patrols, and we're looking at maybe installing some extra sort of protective measures like bollards around there as well, just to kind of block off some of the areas that people are parking when they shouldn't be. And Park's helping us out as well with some pruning and of the shrubbery as well. So we've also written to the New Zealand Police raising safety concerns, and engaged with the community patrol on that as well. So that's our board presentation for today. Any questions?
Okay.
Cool.
Timothy?
Yeah, just to mention also that Spraydon Library's doing, that they've really stepped up to kind of, and they're bulging at the theme.
Yes.
And the mobile library is really taking off, so that's really, really good as well, isn't it?
That's a great point. Yeah, Spraydon couldn't imagine how you could fit anything else in there, but yeah, they managed it. Yeah.
I mean, had a look at some books back, and I was almost embarrassed because they're just flat out. But it's great to see. It's the right kind of place you want to be seen as being busy.
Yeah. Cool.
Very good. Thank you. Very good catch up.
Cool.
Thank you.
And we'll just talk a little bit to our submission on the transport transport strategy as well. Just very briefly, just wanted to highlight really essentially that we, as a board, strongly support continued investment in cycleways in general. We've had really, really positive outcomes where in our community where we've had MCRs or other connector routes put in place. Great feedback from the community as well. We also strongly support the continued improvement of public transport infrastructure such as bus lanes, so Horsell Road being a big one for us and HHR too. And Safer Speeds program. I think it's really disappointing that central government has decided to overreach into local transport planning policy around speed limits. But we do really support that program or the project of keeping our tamariki safe around schools to progress in some form, despite central government policy. We can support continued investment in climate change resilience for the network, and we continue to prioritise the safety of active transport users and the amenity of public spaces over convenience of drivers. So that's kind of the highlights from us on that.
Thank you, Andre. Yeah.
Thank you. So council's intention is to delay Lincoln Road works by 3 years. So it could have the works likely done before the Brome Street works start. Instead, it appears as though council wait until the Brome Street works start and then do both at the same time. Does your board have a view on how that's going to impact your board area?
We haven't had. We probably, to be honest, we probably need to have a thorough discussion with staff about that before I can represent the board's view. But that's a good point. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your submission on the transport plan. You talked about the slower speeds. I was just wondering, in your board's area, from what you've seen, have you had any concerns about the introduction of slower speeds without, like Colombo Street, for example, going to 30k, without doing the associated engineering to encourage people to slow down? Like, has there been any observations that you could share with us around when we put in slower speeds, what the compliance is without the engineering?
So actually, we've had some residents. One of our local residents, Simon Kingham, has actually come and spoken to the board about the research that's been done on this, and the evidence is that while you don't get 100% compliance, you do see measurable reductions in speed from signage. Obviously, we would love to see investment on Colombo Street to make it more, better PT. There's PT Futures, which hasn't happened yet, but we'd love to see things like PT Futures coming through in Colombo Street, that kind of physical works. But until council has the money for that, which I understand, if you want to put that on budget would be great, signage is a great step forward because it does see lower streets, and particularly when we look at the those neighbourhood streets, it has a huge impact.
Yeah, especially at high traffic times where you've got chains of vehicles, because it just takes one person going 30 k's and obeying the speed limit to actually enforce that for a whole line of vehicles travelling past the school at those peak times of the day when kids are often walking across the road. Yeah.
On Colombo Street, where St Peter's School is on Fisher Ave, we have a crossing, a controlled crossing, but we also have a 30k, and that's purely because of driver behaviour. And when you have, say, for instance, the Kashmir roundabout, and I have a number of people saying, oh, it's a pain in the butt, but when you point out to them that it's actually now safe for people, as in children going to school, etc., to cross, then we are seeing some really good feedback.
Sorry, I was just interested because in parts of my area, like Gloucester Street, where it's been 30k, I'm getting people have complained about people passing on the left and people like road raging because of the impact. So actually, it's made it almost more dangerous in some areas. For some residents are feeling concerned that there's not been the engineering.
So it's a bit of case by case as well.
That's good. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you. We're not discussing. Thanks, guys. Thanks for coming up.
Thank you.
Right. We have now Fendleton, Waimari, Harewood with Jason and Marianne. Good to see you.
Good morning, everyone. The inaugural Kia ora Brindwa Connect with Kai event was held on Monday the 17th of February at Morley Reserve, bringing together around 200 attendees from the Brindwa community. The event successfully fostered community connections through shared kai and activities with food and entertainment provided to ensure accessibility for all. The diverse mix of cultures, ages and social backgrounds contributed to a welcoming atmosphere, and the excellent music added to the enjoyment. The event was run in partnership with a number of local community organisations, including a very popular barbecue put on by Kāinga Ora. A huge thanks to our local community development advisor, Karen Bogue, who took on a key role organising this event. The improvements at Nepal Reserve in Burnside were completed just in time for summer. Neighbours of the reserve approached the board requesting some improvements to the area. Through our Better Off funding, we were able to work with staff to undertake the project, which included the establishment of a picnic area, new sun umbrellas and some resurfacing of areas in the reserve. The residents have also been actively involved in the urban forest planting plans for the reserve, which sit nicely alongside the enhancements that have been made. Our board has received great feedback from local residents who are enjoying spending time in the reserve, and a big thanks to council staff who have been involved in this great project. I'd like to take this opportunity to celebrate the success of our local men's shed. The shed was started in 2014 by the Bishopdale Community Trust, where they met in the garage at Sunby House on Farrington Ave. Approximately 8 men were attending, mostly bringing in their own tools. They outgrew the garage and moved to various sites in Bishopdale before moving into their current building, which is the old Kendall Scout Den on the Kendall School grounds. They now have over 150 members. The main aim of the men's shed movement is to give a purpose for men after retirement. In doing so, the shed has been involved in projects such as building planter boxes for council community housing and Kāinga Ora. Other projects include outdoor tables and cages of rat traps for kiwi care. One of their biggest projects has been constructing a gaga pit for Isleworth School. The shed has supported Celebrate Bishopdale and has provided car park marshals for Culture Galore and erected the park signage for many years. The shed is now in a position to be financially independent with income received from projects and services, and has recently supported the Canterbury Charity Hospital with donations for battery-operated garden tools for the volunteer ground staff and some hospital equipment. Hopefully you all received an email with a link to this wonderful new resources that has been created for our Mandarin-speaking residents. With a huge amount of project management from our Community Development Advisor, Karen Bogue, a number of key agencies and organisations have come together to create this fantastic video to help inform our Chinese community around safety issues. The safety video has gained significant traction across multiple platforms, reinforcing its role as a vital community resource. The video has been shared through WeChat groups, Chinese Facebook communities, churches and schools, further extending its reach. There have already been approximately 10,000 views on the WeChat channel alone. The link to the video is available on our board's webpage, along with the links to the shorter videos from Fire and Emergency NZ, New Zealand Police, Civil Defence and St John's. Our wonderful multicultural event Culture Galore will be taking place this Saturday. This event has been running annually since 2000 and has now become a victim of its own success. The numbers attending the event continue to increase each year, which has unfortunately resulted in it outgrowing its location at Redbank Park and Island, particularly around traffic management. So this year will be the final time the event will be held locally. Our board, in partnership with the Waipuna Hallswell Hornby Riccarton Board, have been proud to have been running this very successful event for so many years. Staff are busy looking at the feasibility of transitioning the event to South Hagley Park to be run alongside the Multicultural Centre. Thank you very much.
That is extremely good news. Thank you, especially the men shed thing. That's wonderful. Any questions, please? Andrew.
I thought going to the Multicultural Centre was a done deal. Is it not quite a done deal yet for next year?
Pretty much, just working through some logistics.
Yeah, nice one. Thank you.
Okay. No, wherever you go, it'll be a success, I'm sure. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Rightio. So now we're down to Emma and Simon from Papua Inner Central Community Board. Hello.
Kia ora koutou. Thank you for the opportunity to present to you today. As usual, we're just going to give you a quick rundown on what's been happening in our Waipapa Papanui Inner Central Community Board area over the last month. At our February meeting, we received a number of public forum presentations, and it was great to hear about some exciting projects being planned for and underway in our communities. We also heard from Shirley residents with their views on the upcoming removal of 20 large trees along Emmett Street and Riselaw Street, which I'll touch on further in a minute.
The playground at Avery Park has recently been renewed. This was a project that was approved by our board a little bit over a year ago. It's great to see that work complete, and there's been some really positive feedback on that from those who are using it. Particularly just want to acknowledge staff for adapting the design, particularly around the slide that features in that park. There was some really strong community feedback on that, and thanks to staff for taking that on board and adapting what we did. Just also on that slide is one of our community partnerships rangers with Dennis McMurtry, who's a long-time champion of the Papanui Bush renewal, connecting together. There is a monthly working bee for those who wish to partake at that reserve.
So the Emmett Street and Riselaw trees, I did speak about this last month when we presented, and since then there has been a community-led hui where council staff explained the city-wide project to make street trees compliant with electricity regulations and their requirements around power line clearance. Locals then got the opportunity to ask questions of staff and then hear about the urban forest plan and how the tree losses can be offset by the forestation of McFarlane Park. This was followed by an information session to our board where further questions on these trees were asked, especially around future planning for maintenance of street trees around the city. We're still continuing to work with staff and the local community around this issue, and we'll keep you posted.
Our board approved 28 grants for Summer with Your Neighbours initiatives. They've been underway. There's photos here from a number of those that have happened more recently: Chester Street, Saraband, Atlas Apartments and Richmond Community Garden. And it's great to see our local communities coming together and for the board to be able to just help facilitate that in a small way.
Back in January, Redwood Library held a Stories in the Park event in the neighbouring Redwood Park and had a huge turnout of 215 people. Youngsters were kept entertained with activities ranging from crafts and games through to a story walk, and you can see from the feedback there that it was very well received by the local community.
Gear Up Ōtautahi is our sports gear reuse and recycle program across the city. It is in transition and has moved sort of from council leadership ownership into a community-led model. I'd like to acknowledge the members of the sporting community who are on the committee for that and are now leading it. And great to see the gear that's sort of passing through that program finding space for storage at the Avon Hub. Towards the end of the school holidays, Youth and Cultural Development facilitated an afternoon at McFarlane Park with support from Shirley Community Trust and City Council staff, House of Hoops, and as you can see there, a basketball tournament plus DJ and other sort of activation engagement activities for our local community.
You have heard us speak in previous years about the problems caused by starlings in Dudley Street, and the birds are back again this year causing trouble. Board members and staff met residents on the street a few weeks ago to hear their concerns and see the issues firsthand. The roosting birds are leaving a huge mess with the 5 properties most affected. The lives of those residents are being impacted hugely by the fact they can't let their children play outside, can't hang washing in their backyards, and are constantly cleaning their cars, driveways and other property. Staff appreciate the impact on those residents and are currently investigating options which could make a difference, on top of the fortnightly sweeping of the footpath which is already being done.
We have a video from Children's Day, just acknowledgement for all of those involved in that. Let's just click the button. Fingers crossed.
So I'll know that although that's not actually held in our area, we've included it because it's largely organised by our local board team. So I'd like to acknowledge all the effort that they've put into that.
And we started it.
Thanks, Pauline.
I'm now just going to touch briefly on our Otatahi Christchurch Future Transport Plan submission. We'll take the submission as read. We appreciate the work that has gone into this updated plan and are broadly supportive of the draft and of the amendments proposed in the report before you today. We're pleased to see the proposed post-consultation change to the vision so that it focuses on safety, reliability and efficiency. Safety must underpin all transport decisions. We regularly hear from locals about traffic safety concerns, especially around schools in our area. Efficiency and transport choices are also key, and we would like to see rail included in the strategy around public transport, as our board sees it as a viable option which could be implemented a lot quicker than MRT, using existing tracks from the north through our board area. Do you have anything to add to that?
Nothing.
No, that's it from us then.
Okay, brilliant. Yanni, please.
Thank you. I just wanted to commend you for Children's Day as well, and I just wondered if we could just put a resolution thanking the community board, the council staff, and also the volunteers. I know that there was a lot of volunteers that contributed. So even though it's in our board's area, we're really grateful for the work that you do on it. And I just think it would be nice for council to acknowledge. The second question was in regards to the trees. So under our tree policy, community boards are supposed to get an annual report back on removal and replanting of trees within board areas. Have you do you get regular information about what's happening with trees?
Not regular information, no.
Okay. You don't get an annual report?
No, not that I've ever seen.
So maybe we can chase that up. And the final question was just in regards to the Christchurch Future Transport Policy. I keep looking at, like, in your board's area, for example, Cranford and Inner Street, and I'm just wondering if you think we need to kind of do something different around planning, around when we expand the roading corridor, whether we've got sufficient space for footpaths and cycling. I'm just noting all the development that's happening on that corner, which undoes a lot of the benefits in terms of safety of crossing. I often see a lot of school kids trying to cross, and I'm seeing more buildings being built up to the footpath, more signage going in. That makes it still quite a dangerous place. So I'm just wondering if you've had any thoughts around, in terms of our transport plan, how we do get better outcomes through land use planning.
Yeah, obviously there needs to be more of a connection between the two, so that the transport planning is done with the knowledge of what's the residential planning in the area is, what's going to happen there, I guess.
I think some things have changed too, and maybe in just some small ways. The painted cycle lanes, for example, on Cranford Street there, I believe are now narrower than the legal minimum and wouldn't be marked today, again, if that road was being built, which doesn't necessarily solve anything, but yeah, some compliance or regulatory things have changed since then. Footpaths though as well, put a wheelie bin and someone with a pram on the footpath, and there's just nowhere for people to go. It is it's a concern, but I'm not sure what the solution is to it.
I don't quite know what the process is around this hearing for the transport plan, but can we get some advice on the infrastructure design standards in relation to minimum widths for setback for development around sort of like key crossing points? Like, is that something that we can do? Or
I'm sure we've got all that anyway, and that's what people will be designing their stuff to.
Well, we don't seem to be requiring sufficient setback for development. In some spaces, we've got a lot of kids and a lot of people crossing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. And I'd just like to reiterate about the Children's Day. That was fantastic. And the volunteers, unbelievable. I took 6 grandkids down there, and how one of them can get more candy floss in a hair than in a mouth is beyond me. What a shambles. But anyway, I'd like to just thank you for all the boards for their wonderful presentations and updates. And I'll move that we receive the reports, and Pauline's going to second it. All those in favour? Right, thank you. Carried.
Or we just had a note there to, thank them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So now we have public participation, Christchurch Symphony Orchestra. We've got Graham, Hannah, and I see Renee